Hey dudes, welcome back to another episode of our Rhomas Men's Team podcast. You are about to listen to one of our prior team meetings. If you ever want to join one of our live sessions that we have every Monday and Friday, head over to rhomas.com. That's RHOMAS.com, and put your email in and we will send you a live link every time we record. We generally record on Mondays and Fridays. So if you ever want to be on the actual podcast, like we bring men up all the time to talk about their goals, talk about their obstacles, etc., head over to rhomas.com. And then also, if you want to help support the channel grow and also have access to exclusive content, book reviews, extra whiteboard sessions, etc., and some coaching sessions, head over to patreon.com and support us. We would love it. But if not, no biggie. We'll see you on the live sessions. Later, dudes. Enjoy this podcast.
We are live. What's up, bro?
What's up, dude?
What's happening?
Nothing much, man. Going through it. Like we were just kind of talking about briefly. I think I signed up for like a total of, if you count each individual class, I think like 12 classes total. And normally it was suggested to me to do 2 every 3 months. So I'm doing, 6 in, I don't know, but it's a lot. So, and I'm just letting everybody know, because like I'm going through all the insecurities, I'm going through all the negative thoughts and all that stuff. So it's a very big challenge, and I have no idea how it's going to turn out. So I say that just because, in case anybody else is going through stuff like that, you just have to, in my opinion, you have to go through the unknown. And you have to deal with all the negative thought demons, because they are just inevitable. And my emotional volatility going through all this, even though what little emotion I have, it's crazy, man. Because, I'll do a seminar and then, I get 26 meetings to sign up. And then you have 3 great meetings and then 2 don't show up or something like that. Yeah. And your mind immediately discounts the prior ones that said, that are on board, sort of a thing. So it's just very, very tricky. You just have to kind of trust the process and know that, like, don't judge yourself until you've completed the entire round of what you said you would complete, which for me, it's 12 classes. But it's hard, man.
How many have you done so far?
I have done, so I think I've done 6, I believe. So I've got 6 more left. Yeah, 6 more.
So you're halfway through.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So
yeah, man, that is that's important, man. Just judging yourself on the total outcome versus like psyching yourself out halfway through and then, kind of bailing or whatever.
Oh yeah. And it's, I would say it's not possible to not psych yourself out. It's just like, you have to tell yourself, okay, I'm going to go through this. And this is, relevant towards what anybody is going through. Anytime you have a large body of work, in the middle of that work or in the first quartile of that work, I mean, basically all throughout the duration of that work, except for maybe the first like 5%, because the first 5% is exciting. But from 5% to 100%, it's unknown and you're worried. At least I am, So, and then there's another piece that's very interesting to me. There's just a certain amount of volume you have to do to things. So I think a lot of people, including myself, want to do a little piece and then say, okay, I'm going to stop, and then I want to work on that piece. So for instance, I see it happen in dancing all the time. Like dancing, I want to say, okay, I want to perfect this little move, and then I'll move on to the next move, and then I'll move on to the next move. And that sounds really good in theory, but then you never get out on the dance floor. Like when I danced salsa, I didn't dance on the dance floor for, I'm not kidding, 3.5 years. Because I wanted to try, like I was just scared, right? I wanted to keep on trying to polish off this one move and then this one move and this one move. But there's value in doing the entire thing. Like I'm willing to bet if I would have just like had the guts to say, okay, I'm going to work on these 3 or 4 moves and not be good at them, be willing to be bad at them, and then go out there and dance next week, that I would have been way better off if I would have just danced the whole dance. So that would have conquered my demons, if that made sense. So in business, you can do the same thing, so for like these classes, or like, for me, what part of my brain wants to say is stop doing so many classes and then just like work on the follow-ups from the one class that you did, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the problem there is you don't have experience on the whole system. And I think it's so important to get experience on the whole system and then kind of polish it along the way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you could like hyper focus on like the presentation itself without doing any of the follow up stuff, or you can do vice versa, where you're just like, let me just like let me chase all these little things around. Yeah, man, dude, I agree, and I also think there's something to it. And it's kind of hard to like talk about because it's a very much as an experiential thing. The more you pass through these cycles of like venturing into the unknown, where you're anxious, everything's kind of distorted and out of whack. The more you pass through them, the kind of more at ease you kind of get as you go through them, because you've come out of the other side of it before. So you're like, and every single time you go, oh man, I think this is it. I think I did myself in. This was the one that, I really screwed up, blah, blah, blah. Because, it is on the table, somehow, in some way. But I would say after passing through so many of those experiences, it almost becomes like it's not like you enjoy it like you enjoy like a glass of iced tea, but you start to kind of get into like when things get a little shaky, they get new, and you're like, I don't know, this could go so wrong. But it's like, going through a few of those cycles myself, it's like you start to go like, this is going to work out how it works out. I think it'll go pretty well, but like, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you're up to a lot of stuff, or just, life is going to put you through kind of the waves. I was watching this surfer documentary last night. Matt, I think you'd like it. It's called, I think it's on Netflix, called like 100-Foot Wave or something like that.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, and it's just crazy. So it's, obviously when you get sucked under by a wave, you kind of get tumbled around. And then I think everything always works out. However, Charlie Munger in one of his books said that he had this list of how not to be successful. And he said one of the ways, like the easiest ways to not be successful, is to get addicted to chemicals. And I thought that was really good, because it made me think of like, oh yeah, well, like you go through the wave of life and it will toss you under, and that is hard enough. Imagine then being drunk, when you're under that wave, not knowing which way is up already, and then not knowing how to use like the entirety of your body to fight against that force. And I think that's really interesting. And if anybody is addicted to chemicals right now, it's like, we need to find a way to get you off of those fucking things as best as possible, because life is already difficult enough and you don't know which way is up sometimes. And if you don't have your entire brain capacity with you at that time, it's like, good luck, man. It's fucking hard. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And that kind of is the thing that stinks, because there's like, you can get to a point where like just regular reality is so unbearable without like chemical assistance, it fucks people up. But, I would also argue like that unbearableness is like exactly the thing that needs to be bared in order to kind of like move through it, rather than kind of, just kind of like getting stultified in this thing where you just have the same old issues, the same old solution to them, and it just kind of, can go nowhere. But yeah, man, it is funny too. And the thing I was thinking about that kind of goes along with this is like right now, almost everybody's been forced, because, some people kind of venture off. That's kind of what typically like more like entrepreneurial types are pretty well versed in, just kind of venturing off and kind of like, throwing the wind to the sails, dealing with the unknown. But right now it's kind of like, it's interesting right now because everyone has been kind of plunged into the unknown all at once with like the whole COVID thing. And I've been reading a lot. I've been reading the numbers on it. I've been, trying to stay up, and also trying to stay like really flexible on like, I just want to look at data and just like let that kind of judge my decisions, because it's gotten a very like tribalistic, and, people want to, if you say this thing, you're that, if you say that, whatever. So I've been really looking at the numbers, dude. And it's like, one of the biggest things that I think that I've been taking away from this is like, no matter how you feel about it, there's no better time or kind of like, I guess motivation to like really get your health in order.
Oh yeah.
Because like the funny thing is like the standard practices of health in America, eat this, go to the grocery store and, go get some snacks, go get them some of this. Oh, you deserve, you deserve a treat, all that stuff. It's launched just into an obesity epidemic, which is like, worldwide, I think kills like 2 million people a year die from obesity related, conditions. So, and then you look at COVID and it's like you're 10 times more likely to die if you're obese. It's like, okay, well, fuck, man. So it's like the thing that I like, it's no matter how you feel about it, because a lot of people are very mistrustful about a lot of mainstream science and this and that. It's like, look, no matter what you do, no matter how you slice it, you cannot go wrong if you cut out refined sugars, stop eating bullshit, try to eat, like you were saying, Wes, veggies, meat, like beans, like just regular food. Cut out all the snacks, cut out all the bullshit. All of the way we eat is so, like, embedded socially, where it's like, let's go out and eat. It's like, fried chicken wings. You go out to dinner and it's just shitty, bad food. And everyone, the overwhelming majority of people I meet eat some form of diet. And if you go like, nah, I'm cool, I'm not eating any of this stuff, they look at you like, what the fuck, man?
Oh, yeah.
But it seems to be like, there's all these conversations going around about health and wellness and sickness. And it's like, people might have to completely reimagine their diet en masse. And it comes to the point too, where it's like, all right, so now we're getting, and you can say, oh, it's good or bad, but you're having people, especially in Australia, like, you can't go outside. You can't go 5 miles away from your house. That's an extreme reach of government power. And it's like, okay, some people support it, some people don't. But then it starts going like, all right, so should we just ban junk food too? It's like, that's equally as invasive. And it's like, that would also save millions of lives. So it's like, it's going to be, the whole point I make is it's going to be very interesting. And if people are genuinely worried, it's like, dude, strip the diet down to bare basics, man. Like, that's what I've been doing lately. And just approaching food with like an almost like, I wouldn't say like worship, but like I put it on a thing where it's like, it's very, very, very important. And it's like, dude, if I want to, because you got to have a family and everything, it's like, how do you navigate this sphere amidst like so much conflicting information? It's like, well, what's the fundamental? What's the thing that will, no matter what, has no side effects, no risk? It's like, oh, eating well, and it's like, dude, man, I swear to God, it's like that. I would highly urge people to like go get your sunlight, go do all this stuff you can control.
Without doubt.
Let the numbers fall where they are, and you'll have a better picture. But in the meantime, it's like this whole like, I want to eat cheeseburgers, smoke cigarettes, and binge drink. Oh, and I'm gonna get something, and hopefully it's like, maybe it saves you, man. But it's like, have we set ourselves up to just fall this easily off of a thing that it's only seeming to kill old people for the most part, and people with underlying health conditions, like not like a overwhelming majority. So it's like, if there's ever a call or a wake up call to be like, hey, the way you eat, that is the social norm that is said that like, oh no, man, like relax, lighten up. It's like, it's not working out on a massive fucking scale.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think you nailed on something great, which was a lot of people like to argue minutia, especially about health. And particularly diet, so, should I eat meat? Should I not eat meat? Or this type of meat? Or should I not have this? Like, some people say, like, oh, I shouldn't have this type of vegetable or this type of fruit. I shouldn't have nightshades. I shouldn't have cantaloupe. I had a friend say to me recently, it's like, oh, I can't eat cantaloupe. I'm like, dude, cantaloupe's not your problem. Like, 100% cantaloupe's not your problem. And while we're arguing that minutia, we're downing Frito chips and Coca-Cola. It's no different than people like to argue the gym. Oh, you should do this exercise or this exercise and like not that exercise. It's like, well, how about you actually go to the gym for 3 days straight, like just string together 3 days, and then we can argue, about how you should be holding your grip to a certain type of bench press, right? Like, let's take care of the macro things before we debate the micro things. And chances are we'll never have to debate the micro things because the macro things will be the solution.
Yeah, man, and especially like you were saying, like, oh, should I eat nightshade? Should I eat this? It's like, typically if you're, there's some people who have like I have weird reactions to certain foods where it's like, I can't have dairy. Like, I just get congested. I can eat it if I want, but if I start eating it like 4 days in a row, I most likely will get some form of like cold or just like nasty sinus thing. But yeah, for the most part, you can just, if something disagrees with you, if you're paying attention to your body, you can notice like, oh, every time I eat this, I feel that. And so like that usually becomes kind of apparent. But yeah, dude, I totally agree. It's like, yeah, forget about that for now. Like you were saying, if you're worried about like rare food allergies when you're eating like just pizza and cheesesteaks every day, it's like, yeah, that the nightshades, interrupting your like intestinal lining probably aren't the main driver. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting, man, to kind of zoom out on the whole thing and be like, and they have like, COVID has a ton of numbers. There's a ton of people who are like, they're tracking, they test positive, whatever. It's like, well, the heart was worse. It's like, whatever. The main thing I take away is like, this should be a big wake up call. Like, the status quo in terms of diet, exercise is like abysmal in America, especially. And it's
it's insane, man.
It's so bad. And then it's like, you just want to turn around and be like, fix me to a doctor. And they're like, fuck, man, you've trashed your body for a decade. Like, here's this. Or there's the whole flip side, like, take 25 pills and you'll be fine. It's like, I've been like really, really paying attention. And it's very simple, dude. It's like every time I go to eat something, I go, is this just like my pre-programmed like brain being like, 12 o'clock, it's time for lunch, without, or is my body genuinely hungry? And all I do is just listen to my body. It's like, no, I'm not hungry right now. I'll just wait till I'm hungry and then I'll eat. Pretty simple.
I love it, man. Awesome. Yeah, the intern who works with me right now, she interned for a doctor last year. And so she kind of got insight of like going around to literally patient by patient. And this doctor was a cardiologist, I believe. And she said that it made her not want to be a doctor because she would go around to every single patient and the doctor would say, okay, you've got this. Well, you're going to have to take this, and then you're going to have to take this, and then you're going to have to take this, and then you're going to have to take these 3 things to counterbalance those, and then you're going to have trouble sleeping, so we're going to give you a sleeping medication, literally. And this was an 18-year-old girl, and she said, I could not believe how, like, we were doing this 20 times a day. Yeah. And then you're putting all these people on zombie medication, and then even worse, putting them on sleeping medication. And you think that's going to turn out well?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what the hell is going on, man? And I think we all have experience with that. We either know somebody or are ourselves on those types of medications. And I'm also not going too far off the deep end. Modern medicine has saved a lot of people and extended and, made some people healthy. However, to not look at the massive amount of information we have in front of us of people who are being negatively impacted by this stuff is crazy. Or at least not given the alternative. Like, one of the things I would be very interested to see the study that people were put on a plan of what I would call extreme low intensity exercise. So, for instance, I even think the way we look at exercise is off. I don't think we're supposed to go to the gym or go and do something extreme for 45 minutes and then be done. I think it's effective, and I'm not recommending anybody ever stop that. But I'm going to imagine that from an evolutionary perspective, it was very rarely that, like, where we're throwing around hundreds of pounds or we're sprinting, it was probably more like 4 to 6 hours a day, if not more, of just moderate movement.
Yeah.
Moderate movement up and down different landscapes and so on. I've got to imagine that's why that, what is it? Is it DMRT therapy, whatever that light therapy is, of the horizontal lights? You ever see that?
Yeah, EMDR or something like that.
Yeah. Apparently, from what Andrew Huberman was saying, that is to simulate you walking through nature and overcoming your goals. As weird as that sounds, because as you're walking through nature, you're scanning the horizon left to right. So apparently that's the underlying mechanics of why they have that light therapy, which sounds super weird. But Andrew Huberman described it, the neuroscientist. That's what he described it. Like, they basically found the area of the brain that replicated you walking through nature, and you were constantly scanning on the horizon. So as you talk through your problems, you're moving forward, like you're breaking through the issues, and you're building up this positivity.
I always thought it was sleep. I always thought it was associated with like REM movement of sleep, where your eyes, when you're sleeping, you're dreaming your eyes. But either way, it's whatever it is. Yeah. That's kind of interesting. And it's like, again, it's, this stuff always came off as, in my opinion, whenever I would talk to people like this, it would come off and I would get the sense that they felt that I was being kind of like sanctimonious. But it's like, no, man, like, we kind of hit a little sweet spot where, like, we don't have a lot of like biological demands on us, and we can afford like the 20, 30 extra pounds on us. But like, dude, I was talking to a friend recently, and he's like having all these back problems. He put on 25 pounds, and it's like, well, that's your back problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you don't have a back problem, you have a stomach problem, and if you get rid of that, your back will heal. And it's like, and it's not. I know this because I've done this to myself. Yeah. When I get upwards to 200 pounds, my lower back shits out. It sucks.
Oof. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So it's like, yeah, man. That's so. I don't know. And it's, again, this can kind of seem like, oh, judgy and this and that, but it's like, I don't mean that at all. It's just like, dude, again, all I have to think about
just facts.
Just being old and being able to get around and not needing to have someone to lay me in a sponge bath and wipe my ass. Now, if that happens because like my body just fails for some other reason, fine. But I'm going to do everything in my power for that not to be the case. Yeah. And it's like, you start putting an approach to that, because fitness gets at, like you were saying, Wes, oh, if you're not in the gym, like, bench pressing 3 times your weight and just like running and sprinting and just like, exercising to the point of like almost like heart issues, you're not doing it right. Or just keep the body moving, man. Just go out, do some exercise, take a long walk. Like right now I'm standing, I could be sitting, no offense, I'm standing. I feel like, because I'm going to sit and write. So like just being conscious of like those little things like you were saying throughout the day, I think that's the best thing in the world, man.
Oh, without a doubt. No, I completely agree. Have you ever, I just started researching more Pilates. Have you ever done it?
No. Once again, it was just sad. It was just me and a lot of very elderly people. And I was kind of like, this is too slow.
Yeah, I'm going to start doing more Pilates and flow yoga because there's something there. There's something there to like mobility training and core training. And we would do it a lot on the scorecard team. And I think it's worth a test.
Nice.
Right. As opposed to, I'm still going to lift. I'm still going to do all those things. But there's kind of a lot of stress put on the body because of that. And Pilates to a certain extent has stress, and yoga does too. But it's very fluid and making sure you're moving all of your limbs and your core according to how they're supposed to move. So maybe sprinkling that throughout the entire day, and then also sprinkling a lot of walking throughout the day.
Yep. Dude, I agree. So, yeah, that's my little rant and ramble, but it's like that's kind of one of the more interesting takeaways from this whole situation we're in right now, where it's like, who knows if this will be the last of the kind of thing we're dealing with or not, but it's like, I hope it is. But at the same time, I think it's kind of a humongous wake-up call to the fact that like so many of us are so frail, inflamed, and just kind of just like we've completely trashed our bodies. And you start thinking like, well, why did I do it? And it's like, how do these Oreos get in my house? Does it have to do with the commercials constantly beaming in on the TV that I watch? It's just like you really, it's kind of jarring when you realize just when you just kind of like are moving about life passively, there's just like people just getting into your brain and like making decisions for you on kind of a micro level. And if that might sound extreme, but it's like, well, I don't have anything to do. Let's just watch TV. And now you're bombarded with all these commercials, and it's just like, there's a new double stuffed Oreo, and then that's you see that, and you're like, then you're in the grocery store, maybe you're a little more likely to be like, let's try these things out, and that becomes like a mainstay in your house. So yeah, it's like, dude, I can't recommend enough just stripping down to basics and just doing it, see how you feel. And like, dude, everyone I talk to who actually follows through with this is like, I feel so good that it's good enough that I'm like, yeah, fuck that stuff, I'm good on it. Oh shit, I think your voice cut out. For some reason, you're muted on my screen. I don't know why. All right, let me, I'm going to go like this and send you right back. Let me see here. Sorry about that. I don't know what that's about.
Working now?
Yeah, there we go. I don't know what that was. That's weird.
Do you think it should cross into territory of morality?
Dude, it's so funny you say that, because again, I kind of hinted at it last week, and I didn't really have the words to describe it, but it's like I've been reapproaching kind of diet and exercise from, like, when you learn about meditation, the deeper you go into it, like yoga isn't just like bending and stretching. There's like, I think like 5 or 7 different types of yoga. Like some of it has to do with like completely, examining that very mechanism that you have that like desires things and trying to like separate what's like useful versus non-useful, like what's like life affirmative versus what's like, like if I come home and just like scream at everybody in my house, I might have the desire to do that, and I can come up with reasons why I should. I'm like, yeah, I'm right, I should do this. But ultimately, it's not a good thing. So I've been, and I've been really trying to think of ways to stick to diets. And the one thing, to answer your question, the way that's been helpful to me is to contextualize it exactly the way you're talking about, where it's like, this is a matter of like morality. And, and I'm not, if someone just ate like a bacon, egg, and cheese for breakfast, don't be like, I don't think you're like bad. I'm
throw holy water on them.
Yeah. Personally for me, it's like when I connect it to that larger picture of like, self-mastery, not in service of like, biohacking, but like, this is the right thing to do. And if I can stick with this will pay off into the generations like beyond after I'm here, if that makes sense. Shit. Are
Is it
you
on
frozen?
You were frozen for a sec, but
Sorry, you froze. I'm like, damn, sorry, Wes. I don't maybe disagree. Yeah. So it's kind of like and all of this for me, it comes from if you research like meditation, it just gets like, you're like, oh, it's cool. I'm closing my eyes and breathing. And then like, oh, well, it's also connected to like this idea of like examining like what you actually like and what your desires are and trying to regulate those. That's a part of it too. And, it's like when you read about this, you practice the meditation, you're like, yeah, let me try this too. Of like really like stripping down the things that you want and seeing like what's, again, like, is this desire stemming from kind of like I kind of think of it as like the imaginary part of me, if that makes sense. Like, like I want the experience. I'm full, but like, ooh, that pizza would be very good. I'm eating pizza for the experience of eating pizza and I'm completely going against what my body needs, in a bunch of different areas. So yeah, to answer your question, I think when you kind of like, a lot of these spiritual traditions had like fasting things. They all had these things, and like we've kind of completely ditched all those. And I think, yeah, if you can build that into it, I think it's like with like yoga was like the physical expression of it. Tai Chi was the one in some of the Eastern religions, but here it's kind of we're kind of at a loss where it's like we've ditched religion in favor of science, and it's like it's just not that compelling when you read, like, for me personally, when it's like, oh, if you do this, it increases your blood oxygen. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Versus like, if you eat right, if you kind of like learn how to kind of master your desires, you can like affect the generations to come and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, man. And it also, dude, I've learned recently, and I've experienced this firsthand, whether it's, coincidence, I don't know, but this is the first year I've been able to stick to meditating for like, I don't know how long it's been, but I've been doing it every day for at least like 7 months now or so. And again, every now and again, I might miss a day on like the weekend, but like, 5 out of 7 days I'm meditating for like 30 to 40 minutes a day. And dude, this is the first year I haven't gotten allergies and didn't need to take any sort of Zyrtec.
Really?
So I looked it up. When you're angry and stressed, your body's releasing histamines, which is what you take Zyrtec, because Zyrtec's an antihistamine. So your allergies can get significantly worse if you're buzzing around all angry and kind of like, Rrr.
Interesting.
Yeah, man. And I looked that up after the fact because I was like, this is bizarre. Like, I usually am like choking if I don't have the Zyrtec.
Yeah.
And dude, not a single.
Dude, that's wild. That's wild. I love hearing that.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
So, do you think, for instance, it would be a morality issue if you brought Oreos into the house?
Yeah, in effect, I'm poisoning my family for my own selfish. That's how this is the talking to I give myself.
Yeah.
I'm poisoning my family because I'm addicted to sugar and I'm too weak to break that link. That's how I look at it. Now, that's not a popular opinion, and people do not like that when I say that to them. But it's like, that's how I feel. It's like I'm bringing. It'd be like if I was just leaving cigarettes on my table. Sugar is that bad for you. It just doesn't. They're PR companies. It doesn't get recognized. Yeah. Again, millions of people have been dying from obesity, and sugar is one of the, if not the main culprit. Refined sugars. Mm-hmm. They still allow this. It's like, again, do I think they should outlaw them? No. If you want a treat, you can have a treat, but it's just like there's no real positive benefits. Like, I'd rather get drunk than eat a bunch of sugar, to be honest. It's like, at least there's something there. And honestly, too, you can't even blame the companies, because it's like, this is what people want at this point. Like, it's like people are the ones, it's like, this is people's personal choice. So it's like, I don't think they should outlaw sugar, but it's like, knowing what I think it's almost like, how like cigarettes, like you ate cigarettes when, you had cigarettes when you were 10. It's like, they sold them to us. I think we'll eventually get there with refined sugar as well. But it's like, dude, it's like horrible for your body. It's completely addictive. And it's like, right, and you don't want to be like a total Nazi, because it's like, it's nice to have like a treat here and there, but it's like, as the head of a household, it's up to me really whether or not that is a mainstay of everybody's diet, or whether or not that's like a once in a every now and again treat. So I definitely think there is a major line that should be drawn of, do you let it in the doors of your house? I think that if I had to look at where like the bottlenecks are, or like the reverse bottlenecks, the floodgates opening, I would say, if I had to guess on the data, it's that. I don't know too many people who are like, oh,
like, I really need to get this thing. I'm going to run out to 7-Eleven real quick and eat it in the parking lot there. And then, and then come back, right? Like there's very few people who will go out of their way, right, to quench an urge of sugar unless it's in their house. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like it is like, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to go get a because it's 10 feet away from me. Versus if it's never in the house, then there's that huge barrier of like, oh, I actually have to get in my car and drive to go grab a candy bar. Maybe you'll do that once every 6 months, but you'll do it once every 6 minutes if it's in your refrigerator.
Yeah, now it's even tough too because everyone has the apps. Like Gunther was saying, like Postmates, Uber Eats, GoPuff. It's like they come, you just hit the app and like, boom, there's ice cream at your house now. So yeah, it's
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Oh, you can get a carton. You can get like a carton or a pint of ice cream at your house in like 30 minutes just with a click of a button. So it's like, that's tough, man. So yeah,
that is tough.
It's the only thing, and it's funny too because I was at my parents' house yesterday, and it's like I don't have it in my house, but like when I go there, they have these little like chocolate coconut cream bars, and I open up their freezer, always looking for them because I'm there and I know it's there, and it's like I eat way more crazy shit when I'm there. So it's like again. Yeah. I don't want anyone to be like put off by this, but for me, it's like what seems to be occurring is like people are at a crossroads. People are confused about what to do. And it's like, I think people are fingers crossed. Like, I hope they figure out how to cure things like this and they have vaccines for this. And it's like, okay, go ahead. For me, I'm a little bit more on the hesitant side, especially I like to kind of wait and let things pan out fully. Mm-hmm. But dude, it's like, yeah, man. The one thing that I've definitely taken up is like, well, I'm going to be like as healthy as humanly possible. Not like in like a toxic, stressful way, but it's like, make sure I'm going to keep the stress down, make sure I can go for walks. And, like those moments when I do get stressed, quickly recognize that I'm just being stressed out and I can, let go of all that stuff. And, so it's like, dude, that's just my little trumpet I'm blaring on today. It's like, so, yeah. So
I love it. I think you're spot on. Now, let's say for your kid, for your one child, Maya, and for anybody else who has kids out there, what do you do for snacks? And I mean snacks like, not necessarily intermittent snacking all throughout the day, but what do you do for their treats or if they want something that's sweet?
I usually so we'll just the simplest thing you can do is just read the ingredients of everything you buy. Mm-hmm. It's like, you'll buy yogurt and I just look at the sugar content. And I think, I think you need like a little bit of sugar in order to like ferment like yogurt. I'm not totally sure on that, but it seems to be you need like when you make kombucha, like you need a little bit of sugar in order for like the cultures to feed. So it's like, we get our like little yogurt packets and they have like a little bit of sugar, but we'll get the ones that have like the least amount in there. And then for like snacks, like, I try to do just as little pre-packaged as possible. So it's like we just cut her up fruit, give her fruit.
Yeah, I was going to say fruit and dried fruit, I think, is a good alternative to every other snack. I mean, dried fruit especially is so tasty. I mean, it's super sweet. To think that we even need anything more sweet than dried fruit is pretty wild.
It's pretty crazy, man. And it's like, dude, all I do is I just buy fruit. So it's like her snacks are just either like I'll make her a smoothie, which is cool because you can sneak in vegetables. Yeah. And then or I'll just chop her up some watermelon, grapes or something, and then give her that. So it's like, it's really simple. It's not hard. It's just like, and the True Blue Cobra saying there's a ton of healthy options. There definitely are, way more than before. There's also a lot of fake healthy options too.
Oh, a ton of fake healthy options.
Oh, this is that. And then you check the ingredients. Like, this has a ton of fucking sugar in it. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, man, that's all. Just read the ingredients. That's my mom's golden rule. It's like, if you can't pronounce it, you can't have it.
Yeah. And I think, and just so everybody knows, when you look on, it's different if you look on the actual numerical nutrition facts, because something could say sugar there. That doesn't mean there's added sugar. So you actually have to look at the ingredients underneath of it. So for instance, I like these, I forget what they're called, but they're basically, it's like one banana. So they literally have a banana and maybe they put some mango in there. Now, if you turn the sheet around or the packaging around, you'll see that it has sugar in the numerical grid. But if you look under it, it literally just says one banana and one mango or something like that. So there's obviously sugar in fruit, but just so everybody knows, there's been a ton of studies done on that. That sugar is wrapped in fiber. Like, you are allowed to have that sugar. There's one of that I told you, like my friend, not too long ago said, like, oh, I got to lay off the cantaloupe. It's like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So fruits are completely on the table. I can't stand the fact that when Atkins came around and so on, that they were just completely
shunning all types of sugar, including the sugar from fruit. That's crazy. Like, that is absolutely insane.
Absolutely, man. It's what usually you hear that from people who are diabetic, and they're like, no, my doctor said I can't have fruit either. It's like, well, yeah, don't eat like a humongous bowl of like watermelon and fruit salad. But it's like, if you were to kind of cut all the other bullshit out, you'd be able to probably start, tolerating. Like, I watched my dad do it when he had type 2 diabetes, and then he just took like a plant-based diet, and his sugar number, he was eating more carbs than usual, but his sugar numbers just dipped because he stopped eating all the bullshit and ice cream and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so, dude, yeah, that is clearly the problem. Like, clearly the problem. Yeah. And there's been a ton of studies that have been done on type 2 diabetics and fruit intake. And I'm not obviously not an authority on that, but just head over to nutritionfacts.org and, he'll teach you about all of that stuff. And from my understanding, there's no, or like once you've gotten through like the initial wave or like the larger wave of trying to like settle down on not eating ice cream and all that other stuff, I believe, again, this is not medical advice, but I'm pretty sure even type 2 diabetics are fine eating fruit.
Yeah, and dude, honestly, it's like so what happens is, this is all fine and well, and we can talk about all this stuff, but it's like you deal with the social pressure. Like for me, when I stopped eating a bunch of like bullshit, people go, what the fuck? Oh, you don't want to eat this? Like I'll have to go out to like dinner, and you go to like weddings and stuff, and it's like, I don't want to eat this shit. Like this stuff, it's all prepackaged, and it sounds very snobby and shitty, and most likely I'll pick at it just out of being polite. But it's like, you deal with the kind of social pushback of this and be like, oh my God, especially when you have kids. Oh, you don't get, excuse us. We count chocolate in this house. Like, go ahead.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out. It's just, I don't eat that shit. But I feel like the thing that helps us big time, because it's, it's a big shift, and it's something, because some people can start being like, oh, what's the point? And it's like, I come back to this all the time. It's like, none of this stuff will work unless it's in service to some like larger, very compelling goal. So it's like, all of this stuff kind of twines with everything else. And it's like, you can sit here. There's a lot of times you just, let's go out for Friday. You don't know what you're doing with your life. So you're like, all right, my friends call me. Let's go out to the bar. This can repeat forever until you die. But then you start to kind of come up with like a personal mission. And it's like, okay, what's actually in service to this and what isn't? I can still have all my relationships, but I'm going to tweak the way what I do and the things I go about, or at least moderate them to some degree. So it's like, I always tell people too, it's like, I've had this thing in my head where I'm like, oh, I'm going to start eating well. If I just start eating well, everything will be good. And it's like, that's just a piece of the puzzle, dude. One of the biggest things too is like, what are you doing it for and why? And again, what are you ultimately trying to do with your life? If you can't answer that question, dude, it's like, you're in for a fucking tough time. That's they never tell people that. It's like, if you cannot sit down and like, at least you don't have to have it figured out, but start mapping that out. Like today, write it down. Just start freely writing about it. And you might not come to an answer that really feels good to you in like 6 months from now. But if it's such a tough, it's like everyone, it almost has to like, every single person has to write like, quote unquote, a book, like one book where they figure out exactly what they're trying to do and why. It's like, dude, when you figure that out, it starts taking away all the anxiety. It starts kind of like to put everything in context of like, does that help the mission? Does it not? But if you don't have the mission, most likely you'll unthinkingly gravitate toward all of these sensory pleasures and kind of like, ooh, the good food, and ooh, yeah, we deserve drinks, and ooh, it's Thirsty Thursday, all this fucking bullshit. You'll typically, if you don't have a mission, you'll gravitate toward all that stuff, and what they call that like the unthinking path. And I'm on my Hinduism bullshit now. Typically rams you right into a wall. You just, they have, dude, I love the way they break this down where it's like, you picture I don't know if I've talked about this before, but you picture your mind, you picture your whole self as a chariot driven by 5 horses, which, are your 5 senses. You have a driver holding the reins. The reins are, did I talk about this before? The reins are like
Briefly you did before, yeah.
So, and you just think of it like that. Like if your senses are blindly kind of like, steering it, they're going to run. If you're just following horses around, they're going to run you into, they're not going to lead you properly. But if you can sit back and kind of quarterback this whole thing from like I was saying, a stance of like you who has figured out exactly what you're doing with your life, you navigate these situations so much easier. But if you don't have that part, it's just this guy trying to whip these horses into submission, and it's like, good luck, man. Good fucking luck.
Dude, I see the pattern repeated with myself. I mean, everybody around me, including myself. It's this constant like realignment to that North Star. Just realignment. And if you're not, man, life just becomes like chaos. Yeah. I got an example in my life right now that I'm not going to use because it's a little too close to home right now. But it's that, like, I just want to tell this person, like, yes, all of this thing
is complete chaos for you because you're not controlling your 5 horses. These 55 things out here are all a function of these 5 horses.
Yep.
You know, and 5 is not a lot, but it's also just enough to almost feel like a lot, but it's not 55. It's 5. You know, and then it's like, okay, well then that one horse is a little bit, you know, out of line because you haven't trained him properly. So you got to spend the next few weeks training him in, you know, and then, okay, this other horse, like your health or whatever it is, you know, the way you treat people, all those, or like stop giving the snide remarks or like the eye rolls, like all those little things, all of those little things is like just making that one particular horse that much more of a pain in the ass. And that's not to speak of the 4 other horses, right? That you have to do the same. You got to go through the same process with those 4 other horses, and then maybe 6 months from now, you'll start to notice that 55 thing chaos turned to 45 things. You know, but
yes,
you know,
dude,
it's like in weight loss, right? Like you spent the last 25 years putting on. You cannot spend 25 minutes taking it off. It's going to take some time.
Oh yeah, man. That's the one thing I read from the book when they say like. It also kind of demystifies your problems, exactly like you said. It's like, well, I have a drinking problem. It's like, no, you have a horse problem. It's like, and that horse is leading to alcohol, and you need to learn how to, you know, regulate that. And one of the best things I've ever heard is like, if you want to figure out why you do something, stop doing it. And then you'll be confronted with feelings that you then can be like, oh, this is how I feel when I don't do this thing. Why do I feel like this? And can I let go of this feeling rather than just completely obliterating it with alcohol, you know, any other types of drugs, overeating? Like, can I just sit with this feeling and let it pass naturally rather than like constantly feeding all the shit into it, convincing myself like, if I don't do this, you know, oh my God, I'm going to have to deal with my thoughts. It's like, well, then deal with your fucking thoughts, man. It's like however long it takes, that's your only option. If you want to, if you eventually want to, you know, live like a vital, connected kind of life, or it's just kind of like, you know, fallen, just kind of just being like you give up and you just go, hey, I think they call it, the book I read, they call it the religion of sensory pleasure. It's like, see where that leads.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
It's like, that's what we kind of worship right now. And it's like, it doesn't really have very good outcomes, man.
It's got terrible outcomes.
Yeah.
Got terrible outcomes. Well, dude, you're preaching today, brother. I appreciate it. That was awesome. The Church of Matt. I love it.
I love the Eastern, the Eastern like spirituality models are really cool because they're very much tied to the physical universe. Everyone thinks they're like, oh, they're all crazy and woo-woo. They're just really like, you're just an emanation of the life force that is inherent in all things in the universe. And here's a way to navigate life based on you connecting to like your natural self that's in line with nature, rather this like puppet self that emanates to contend with all of like your selfish desires and all these other things, which, you know, it's not bad to have. It's natural too to have that. But it's like, if you discount the kind of, you know, wiser, more connected to like what actually is versus like this part of you that's constantly conjuring up scenarios of what might be and like what might have happened, when you act aligned with the, you know, let's call it the mind self, it's like it's just fucking chaos, man. That's why you constantly got to be calling your attention back to like, what's actually going on? Do I actually need this thing? Blah 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 blah. And like, dude, I've been like just tiptoeing around it and kind of messing with these things. Humongous benefits, dude. It's crazy. And there's no, you don't have to like pay anyone 25% of your income. It's not like a religion in the Western sense where it's like, it's just awesome. It's like yoga came out of it. Meditation comes out of it. It's like, it's just nothing but awesome stuff, you know, so far. Besides the caste system, not a very great.
I was going to say that's where religion, in my opinion, is losing a lot of all types of religion, because there are certain things that are pretty extreme.
Yes.
You know, like, you know, sacrificing something or someone, etc. Like, you know, obviously there's a way extreme, but there's still very extreme things in there where people say, well, that's not true. But because the text treats it, you know, biblical, that it's unchangeable, that's a problem. Like, that's where it becomes a problem. But it ends up getting, you know, the baby's thrown out with the bathwater because there's all this extra stuff in there that's just phenomenal. But it's that 5% that you're like, you know, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know that that's good for society.
Yeah, man. And the cool thing is, you know, you read every one of these traditions has like reformers in them. It's just they're usually not as famous, or they make reforms, then people do the same thing against them. Like, they just kind of like calcify and like, this is the new rigid rules. But it's like, yeah, like, dude, I think Hinduism had a problem where they had all these rites, like, oh, if you buy a house, you got to do this ceremony, and then people just started selling you all the trinkets you needed to do to ceremonies, and like people came through and were like, yeah, fuck all this stuff. The book I'm reading is like Again, dude, still plowing through, taking notes. I'm going to read it twice. Talks about this. There's one of these things. There's like 6 things to do to kind of like set yourself up ideally, like kind of in a mind-body sense. And one of them is it's called cessation of dependence. And one of the main things people depend on are superstitious, unnatural beliefs. And they're saying like, get rid of all of that shit. Like, go walk under ladders. Like, fuck that stuff, man.
Hell yeah, dude, I love that.
I figured you love it, and it's just cool, man. It's it's very neat. But like when you start thinking of all the kind of like superstition you just depend on, it's like, and this is like scary for people, but it's like, yeah, like let go of it, like.
I not too long ago I was a very unpopular person at a family party, because of some mystical nonsense, and I said, like, let me do it. I'll do it right now, like in front of everybody. And literally the people were so super, they're like, you can't do that right now. Like, you'll have to leave. I'm like, I'll have to leave? They're like, you'll have to leave. I'm like, well, I'm going to do it. Oh yeah. People get pretty intense about this kind of stuff, man. So, but in my opinion, it's a moral thing, right? Like, if you're going to raise a family, do you want to raise them thinking that hocus pocus is going to positively or negatively impact their lives? Or do you want to raise them to be as moral and logical as possible so that they can build a foundation of actual substance, not of like, oh, if I walk under this ladder, it's not going to work out for me next week.
Exactly.
That's a problem.
The one thing in the book, they said if you are walking under a ladder, just make sure nobody's working above you to drop something on your head. But other than that, you're good to go.
You're good to go. Awesome, dude.
What's on the agenda this week?
Pure focus on the seminars. Like, I just want to absolutely crush it. That's my singular focus. Yeah. How about you?
Fantastic. I am. So I got to travel. I got to go to Chicago this weekend for a wedding. So
cool. I'm
kind of in like, and I've gotten used to these weeks where they're kind of like broken up, and I have like a bunch of like stuff I got to do that has nothing to do with work. So I've been getting good at not letting that stress me. But so really, I am going to try to get the second meditation thing at least down on audio, so then I can transfer it more to like a video editing mode and less writing, so I can see where I'm at. So I want to get that done before, like, obviously Friday I'm leaving early, so I want to get that done by like Thursday at the latest. So
heck yeah, man.
So that's my main focus. Everything else is, again, just staying on top of all my physical health stuff, making sure I take at least a long walk every day, go to the gym a couple times, and like, try to not let go of the reins while I'm in a different city and just like, oh, I get to eat crap now because I flew to a different place. So
yeah, no, I fall into that trap too. All right, dudes, well, thank you, brother.
Later on.
Talk to you soon. Later, guys.